did that by night with his father at that time, and he went on to UCD. Now he is one of the top dairy experts in Canada, and I just came across him by accident. Eamon Cochran, the runner, had a group of people over from Villanova last summer, and he asked me to say a few words to them, and so I did that. And one of the people that were there, he was so impressed with Ireland that he came back again, and I just met him at the hotel in Dublin, and we went for a run the following morning, and he mentioned about John Kennelly, that he was one of the top dairy experts in Canada, and I said it would be great to have him here this evening. So he's here with us this evening, and he will kind of wrap it up at the end, so that's why it's important that you'll all wait to hear him. And he's an expert in nutrition especially, so it's great to have all our speakers here, and especially John New all the way from Alberta to be here this evening. He's Dean of the faculty there in Dairy and Environmental Science and so on. So our first speaker is...
What do you like, because there are the bankers down there, so I'm okay. So there's two stories I'd like to tell you. One about a Cork man and one about a Kerry man, and they're both true, right? The Cork man, I was at a funeral service actually, and it was in a hall, and it was packed capacity, and I was standing at the back. And it's the joy that the Corkmen are very entrepreneurial. But he came in and he couldn't find a seat except there was one at the very front, so he went up, took a seat, and waited for proceedings to begin, but was slow to start, so he needed to go to the toilet. And he knew that if he left his seat, that the seat would be gone when he come back. So what did he do? But he took his seat to the toilet. He lifted it, and he walked out the back of the hall and off to the toilet, left the seat outside the toilet, and came back and brought it back in and sat down. So he's a very entrepreneurial guy. There was another guy, and it happened to be during the summer. I was down, I won't say the town, which was in Kerry. And I was collecting a little bit of machinery for myself, and I forgot to bring a ratchet strap. So I went into this shop, and this shop sold 4-prong pipes, crowbars, ham, tomatoes, bread, everything. And I said to him, do you have a ratchet strap? And the gentleman said, I do. So off he went, and there was a big long queue, and I kind of felt bad that he had to go away and get something that I'd asked him for. And eventually he came back, not with a ratchet strap, but he had a rat trap. So we're not all that far away in Cork, but we have language difficulties, obviously. Cheese, cream, and yogurt, and then from that. So our system is it's like 3 different stages. We take the milk, we make it raw ingredient, and then from the raw ingredient we make a range of desserts. I don't know if some of you recognize these. We make some butter, we make a range of kits, yogurts, and so on and so forth. I leave some product actually at the back later on if you want to have a look. But very simple products. There is no more than 4 or 5 ingredients in anything that we make. There's a range of what we do. It's high-end, it's niche, it's expensive, I guess. And for us, it's over as €100. €10 of that 100 has to come from new product development. It's so vital. Every company needs a churning system, taking out products that aren't working and bringing in new products. I just want to quickly talk about this. This is a principle that we use. It's called an iceberg, right? Above the waterline is a very small, let's call it a triangle. It's what people see about your brand. It's your name, your identity, your logo, your advertising, everything that people can see. And I think what we've discovered in our business is that it's actually not the small triangle that people see. It's actually everything that's under the waterline that people don't see that makes your business extraordinary. Things like, what about if somebody complains about your product? How do you react? Do you slam down the phone and tell them you don't want to hear them? Tell them they're wrong? Do you listen to them? Do you take what they're saying on board? Do you compensate them?
And the money that is received from the government. So at this point in time, the government still, the bank still owes the state 1.8 billion, and the state has a 15% share in the bank. There's just in terms of what has been happening, like there's been a major restructuring program over the last few years, and you'll all be aware of that. Like with all the banks, like as the minister said at the start, we need a sustainable banking system going into the future. And what Bank of Ireland have been doing is, as I understand it, there's about 6,000 staff have left the bank over the last 4 years or so. So huge change. And you're seeing it yourselves, like going into branches, like there's a lot more machinery inside the branches now and less people, unfortunately. But it's a question of cutting costs and trying to get back to profitability. Bank of Ireland expects to be back in profit area next year. So unfortunately, there's a transition period there, and I know it has been a big change for a lot of customers going into banks, and it's hard to get to meet people and talk to people. But at the end of the day, people do business with people. So I'd say that's the next job of work required, I would suggest, so that banks are more accessible to farmers, because we hear it all the time on the ground.
We have maintained a very strong focus on agriculture over many decades. We have a dedicated agri team, and even before I joined the agri team, and I'm in the agri team in the AIB now nearly 8 or 9 years, there was a previous agri team compiled by Philip Maher and Nick Barry, who retired there in the last number of years. We have a banking relationship with 2 out of every 5 farmers in the country, and I'd even suggest down in Cork and Kerry that we have even a higher banking relationship with farmers in this neck of the woods. It's a key sector that we aim to grow our business in. It's top of our agenda in every branch manager, and I know Tony, who's the local branch manager here, will concur with that in Listowel. It's a key sector, and it's the top of every branch manager's agenda to focus on the agri sector in his locality. And not only are we involved on being out on farm visits and lending to farmers on the ground, but we're integrated in all levels of the agri-food chain, be it on farm, lending to dairy farmers, be it processing levels, or be it at the Kingston or the Glenilen food levels. As I say, we have a dedicated agri team. We have 6 agri advisors. One of the 6 handsome men up there is myself. I'm based in AIB in Bandon. I cover all of West Cork and all of Kerry County, and similar to Pat, my job is out there to support our branch network when there's a decision to be made on an agri lending application. In addition to that, we also provide support to our branch network with regard to training new staff. As Pat mentioned, banks have lost a lot of staff in the last number of years, and there is a big upskilling program going on in the AIB with regard to agri development and agri lending.
We hear they always give us an update on where they're going. We've always been very supportive of them as a food fair committee of Listowel for the last 20 years. We were predicting their greatness, which eventually has happened. So John Daly is just here to do a short presentation to you, and then we'll have Dr. John Kennelly from Macanlure, who will be taking an overview of what's happening and will be advising us on the Canadian experience, and also he is an expert on dairy farming, especially nutrition, so he's well worth waiting for.
As I sat listening to the 2 financial people speaking, Pat and Donal, one of the things that struck me was how they both mentioned about expansion and the need to expand in a gradual and sustained manner and consolidate. And I suppose that's something that we would see as well in terms of our own interaction with our customers. And it's something we recommend. There's obviously no point if you're making 60 cows now, putting in a huge investment at the moment for 100, 120 cows. But equally, there's no point putting in investment or not doing the work now that gives you a bottleneck in your production. It doesn't allow you to do that gradual expansion for now and in future years. One of the questions that comes up quite often, obviously, when we talk about post-quota and expansion and all that, is there going to be a market for what we're producing? We're a small country, we're dependent on exporting, I think 9-10 times what we produce. And the question is there a market? When I was here last year and I spoke, it was a couple of weeks after Dr. Edmund Hardy had won the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year. And in the meantime, in June of this year, Edmund represented Ireland at the World Entrepreneur of the Year in Monte Carlo. And there was a great interest in Dairy Master as an agricultural company at that. And one of the people that showed a lot of interest in it particularly was Deenihan. And he was very interested from the point of view of the challenge that the world is going to face in sustainable food production. Where the world population is growing at the rate of 5 million people per month. That's the equivalent of the island of Ireland per month. And those people are going to need to be fed. And Kofi Annan, he talked to Edmund about the crisis in Syria, for example, at the moment, and the Middle East and so on. And issues like that, he said, are problems that will be solved. But the bigger issue that he felt that he had to deal with was sustainable food production and having enough food to feed the world's population. So there will be volatility, but at the same time, there is definitely going to be a market there for our produce. And it's up to us to be able to produce that obviously in a sustainable manner, quality food at the right cost base.
My home in Edmonton, so I guess that makes me an expert. So I'm sitting at the kitchen table having breakfast last Sunday, getting ready to pack to come to Ireland because I was invited to UCD. They're doing an external review, and so Minister Deenihan, he phones me and he says, we have this little group getting together in Listowel. Would you pop in on next Friday night? And I thought maybe a dozen people or so on would sit around the table. Wasn't really expecting this, so I said yes. But Minister, obviously you've got recognisability as a football player, and I was kind of curious because I've been out of Ireland since '77. How you're doing as minister? So I did my random survey in Dublin. Half a dozen people over the last few days, and actually they say you're doing very well. So I think we're very lucky to have you up there. So even though I've been away from Kerry for quite a while, I do keep an eye on the Kerry team, and lately a few disappointments, not bringing back that cup as often as I would like to see. So if you ever get tired of politics, perhaps Minister, coaching, might be a bad job. Give them a hand there so that you could bring them to some success. So maybe consider that. So anyway, I will be brief. You've had a lot of advice this evening, and I just want to do, I guess, 3 things very briefly. One, talk a little bit about what you're already seeing this evening here, this interest in food in general. Say a few words about agriculture in Canada, especially on dairying, and then come back and maybe a few words at the end about what I see as the opportunity